Yeah.
Okay,
Let us know before you hit the gavel so we can go live on YouTube. Are you ready?
yeah, I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Yeah. mhm.
What? Watch out, your nose is gonna hit your computer.
Now, what happened? Oh, okay. Okay, tell me when I'm clear. I'm clear? Okay, what am I supposed to
Don't we
say?
have to open up and then
Yes.
close? So
Just
open
like-
up the meeting
Oh, that was the wrong one.
and then ask
I'm glad I didn't break it now.
Leo,
Okay.
can you take
We're
the
gonna
hammer from
open up
him,
the-
please? Before you
We're
hurt
at the
somebody.
city council meeting on February 8th,
Public
and
comment.
let's go to the
Public
public
comment.
comment. Anybody? Nobody?
Check
No
your phone.
comments were received through email either.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're moving on into the matter of,
That was close. session.
No, no, we just
Close
closed.
session.
oh, that's not the closed session.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is. We're
Oh,
going to
okay,
close session.
we'll move into closed session. Who's got that?
Well, hold on, let him shut us down.
Let's restart the city council meeting from Tuesday, February 8th. Tom, do you need to report out?
Members of the council and public, city council did meet in closed session prior to tonight's meeting commencing at 5:30. Received an update on pending real estate transaction, as well as an update on pending litigation. No reportable action was taken during the meeting.
Okay, with that, we'll stand and Mike, will you do the, are we gonna, do we need to check in again? That we're here?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Okay. Gotta be retrained.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for the invitation. Stand for the invitation.
Hello there, my name is Pastor Mark Van Dyke, and I am lead pastor over at Hammond Valley Church, just a few blocks down Wilma. And just want to begin by encouraging each of you who do good work. I am a proud resident of Ripon. Wherever I go in California, I love saying that I'm from Ripon, and that's in large part because of the good work that happens here. And so thank you for your work. Be encouraged as you start your meeting. Let's pray. Oh Lord, we just professed our belief that we are under your authority. And we begin this meeting seeking you. You are the God of the heavens and the earth. You are the God who is in authority, who is sovereign over our nation, our state, our individual lives, and certainly this town. Lord, we thank you for blessing the citizens of this town so richly. We thank you, God, that we are a town that sees prosperity and safety. Lord, we pray that you would continue to keep the citizens of Ripon safe. We pray that you will particularly do that for our first responders, police, and fire department. Keep them in your hand and guide them in the way, in your way throughout their work. Lord, we pray for wisdom among each council member and each influential individual who is in this room. Oh God, we pray that your will would be done, that your kingdom would come here on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Councilmember Gary Barton,
Present.
Daniel DeGraff. Leo Zuber,
Here.
Vice Mayor Mike Restuccia,
Present.
Mayor Dean Euchre.
Here. At this time of public discussion, this is time provided for the public to address the city council on items not on the agenda. If you desire to speak, please address Mr. Mayor, and upon being recognized, come forward to the podium and say your name and address before proceeding into your subject matter. I believe we have a visitor that might want to say something, our new supervisor.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to be here, and thank you, council members. I'm going to need more than 3 minutes. I usually go around 20, 30, sometimes 45.
We'll see you later.
No, I just wanted to stop by today and introduce myself. And I know, we've worked, several of you, we've worked together in Washington, DC. Councilmember Zuber, we sit on COG together where he served as chair and the Mega region. So I introduce myself to your staff, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of me. Just a quick background, which you're all familiar with during redistricting that happened in December. Some of the lines changed for the district. Previously I had Mountain House, Tracy, River Islands, and Lathrop, and half of Manteca. And we stopped pretty much right before Ripon. And with the redistricting and the lines changing, now it's Mountain House, Tracy, Ripon, and Escalon. So pretty much all of South County. And that's what it was like 20 years ago. So, for me, ag is a top priority, and it's something that, going back to the days of my grandparents having, dairy farms and so on. So something that I hold very personal. But I just wanted to reach out to you as a board and staff to let you know that, who I am and that my office is always open. I know I spoke to many of you, and that if you ever need anything, or even your residents ever need anything, I'm just an email or a phone call away. I know I've met with your, Chamber of Commerce and your fire department, talking about what I can do with some of the, hopefully we'll be getting some funds here in the county, how I can improve Ripon in the unincorporated areas and South County. One thing I am very passionate about, even, before I became supervisor as the mayor of Tracy, is to make sure South County, we're getting our fair share. That, even though the central seat is in Stockton, that the resources and funding comes to South County as well. So with that, I want to thank you all very much for your time, and, thank you for the work that you do. Ripon is a great city. I know I follow, I'm very involved in youth sports, and I'm a huge football fan. And so I've been following up with, for years, Ripon football, Escalon, Tracy Kimball, and so on. So again, thank you all very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Public approval of the minutes? Anybody?
We're not using the system tonight.
That's correct. We have to do a roll call vote.
All right,
This
I'll
evening.
move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
And all that in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No,
Aye.
you have to have a
Roll
roll call
call vote.
because he's not here.
Oh, sorry, you told me that, didn't you?
Councilmember Gary Barton,
I'm gonna get fired.
Aye.
Councilmember DeGraff,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Restusha,
Yes.
Euchre,
Yes,
motion passes 5-0.
okay. And approval of the agenda are posted as amended. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Yeah, I need to step out for 1.2A,
Okay, 1.2.
or not 1.2I rather, sorry.
Aye.
I need to pull 3A.
Is that 1.3A, Mr. Restusha?
I think so. It's your investment.
1.3A.
Okay, and then is 1.3B, is that a consent item? Can we pull that? Because I just have a quick question on that. That I didn't have time to call, otherwise I would have said before the meeting.
Is that it?
That's it for me.
With this, we'll,
I gotta step out, yeah.
For which one?
Are we,
we got to vote first.
do we vote on that one separate since he's,
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
so we need to do,
So we call for the vote for the.
all right.
what-
I will move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Barton,
Aye.
DeGraff,
yes,
Zuber,
Yes.
Restusha,
Yes.
Euchre,
Yes,
passes 5-0.
Then I will
Okay.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
second that,
Councilmember Barton, Councilmember Barton,
yes or no?
Mr. Barton?
Who did he cut us off?
You can't hear us, I guess.
Gary, can you hear us? Okay.
Okay.
thumbs up. Okay, yes. DeGraff,
yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Restusha.
Yes.
Euchre,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so we'll start off with, what,
I need to
oh, you're gonna
I
step
need to
out.
step out for 1.2.
So you don't have nothing to say about it. Okay. So do we want to go ahead and move to the 1.3A or B and do them all?
Well, we'll do it right now, as soon as you walk
Well,
out
let's
the door.
vote on this first,
I'll
huh?
move to approve 1.2.
Aye.
Aye.
Second,
Councilmember Barton. Good. DeGraff is away. Zuber,
Yes.
Restusha.
yes,
Euchre,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay. So now, Mike, you wanted to talk about 1.3 A and B, right? Can they both be done at the same time?
No.
No, okay, separate, 1.3 A.
So the question I have, Lisa, we talked a little bit about this on 1.3A is your quarterly investment report. I wanted to go back and look, but I did not. But we have $30 million sitting in LAIF and it gets 0.23%. Our pool at Bank of New York gets 1.28%. And I don't know what our liquidity needs are, what our cash flow looks like, what the durations are. I don't know how easy it is to take money out of Bank of New York. But if we just move $10 million, we make $100,000 more a year just by moving it from LAIF to, if we move 20 million, we're making an extra couple $100,000 a year for doing nothing but pointing and clicking. But I don't know if it's that easy. So I don't know what our cash flow needs are and what's the minimum we need to keep in the LAIF account to cover our operating and capital expenses.
Kevin and I do analyze this on an annual basis, but I will look into Bank of New York and see how easy it is and what any sort of fees may be and the timing of any sort of transfers to see if we can start being a little bit more active with that.
Yeah, and I think that's important. If you can move in and out and there's no fees and you can do it every 3 days or something like that with notice, I mean, you can move it every day if you needed to. And I know that sounds like a lot of work, but if we can save a couple $100,000 a year. Okay,
I'll look into that.
thanks.
So we'll call for a vote on that item.
Yeah, I'll move we approve the quarterly investment report.
Second,
I'll second.
Councilmember Barton,
Yes.
DeGraff,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Susha,
Yes,
Euchre,
yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on, 1.3 B, Mike.
yeah, I'm sorry I didn't ask this ahead of time. Maybe it's in there and I missed it, but I didn't see the reimbursement agreement from Bethany. Because it says we're going to be reimbursed by Bethany, but I didn't see any documentation or agreement to that.
Yeah, they've already have a reimbursement account with us that was approved at a previous council meeting.
Okay, thank you. That answered it. I move that we approve this.
Second.
Councilmember Barton,
I have a question for Kenny. Kenny, will there be a model of this project constructed, or is it just going to be electronic information?
It'll just be electronic information.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
thank you. Councilmember DeGraff,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Susha,
Yes,
Kane,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, that closes the consent calendar. We'll move on to ordinances. This ordinance amends chapter 8.12 garbage collection and disposal in the Ripon Municipal Code in order to include the new state of California organic waste division regulations. Is that Mr. Peace?
Yes, that is me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Honorable City Council. So yeah, what you have in front of you is an amendment to incorporate the SB 1383 requirements into chapter 8.12 of the section of the code. And then Hunter has got a quick little presentation I'll run through here to give you an overview of it. Maybe. Where am I pointing at?
Actually,
Okay. All right, well, this is the second slide anyway. So just to give a quick recap, I know I went over this with the council at the July meeting of last year. Just to remind the council and the public how we got here. So 2016, Governor Brown signs into law SB 1383 in an effort to reduce statewide emissions. That bill basically tasked Cal Recycle and the Air Resources Board to adopt regulations to reduce organic waste in landfills. Hunter, I might just need to tell you next. Yeah, there we go. And then the purpose, so why did they do this? Well, according to the research that was performed by the state, 20% of the methane pollution is coming from organic waste in the landfills. Two of the other major sectors or sections or sectors are the dairies and the oil and gas sector, which both come in at about 26%. Currently, what they had shown, this is all based on their 2014 studies, half of the tonnage dumped into California landfills is coming from organics, as you can see there. Go ahead, next. So here were the original targets tied to the bill. And as far as the reduction of organic waste and disposal go, they weren't really ever attainable. The infrastructure needed to process and recover the organic waste is not in place. And based on CalRecycle's own projections, future facility construction, they'll still be short by about 8 million tons in 2025. And I think that's based on their 2014 numbers. So that's probably only increased from then, but just to give you a kind of a background. Go ahead, next. So our first step that's required by CalRecycle is to adopt an ordinance. And it's basically going to be used to enforce and regulate our program. It was originally supposed to be in place by January 1st, although CalRecycle has now given us until April to put this in place or get this in place. The ordinance that you see in front of you tonight amends that Title 8.2, garbage collection and disposal. And then just to give you guys an idea of our approach when we were looking at this and drafting this, we wanted to make sure that we are obviously in compliance with the regulations, make it as simple as possible to follow, and then allow for flexibility within our collection program as we kind of move toward figuring out what is the best route for us financially for our ratepayers. And really, this is what CalRecycle is deeming as their enforceable mechanism. That's why they want this in place, so that we can be the enforcers to make sure that our own residents, ourselves, commercial businesses, and haulers are all complying with SB 1383. So, and what they've kind of come to us and told us that if we didn't have this in place by April, their next action would be corrective action plans for each individual cities that don't have this in place on how to get to where they want us to be, and then possibly civil penalties down the road. So this first section, 8.12.035, it's our single family generators. And really, there's not a whole lot to this section other than that it requires the homeowners to subscribe to the city's organic waste collection services, place the designated materials in the correct containers according to our collection system. Go ahead to the next slide there. So that's currently what we're working on. Staff is working on that. We're trying to figure out how to meet the minimum requirements of what the law states at the lowest possible rates. We're currently evaluating all of those options. The big unknowns is the cost from our processing facilities, the different haulers, where we're going to take this. So as we move forward, and we're looking here in the next couple of months to bring something back to council, showing you those options, showing those fiscal impacts to not only the city, but to our ratepayers. The second section is 8.12.085. It's our commercial generators. Basically, it's requiring all of the businesses to subscribe to an approved collection service, place their materials in the correct containers according to our collection system, or one of our approved waste haulers. So we're currently working with haulers that provide services in the city and those waste processing facilities as well. And then just like the residential side, we'll be bringing those options forward to council and letting you know those fiscal impacts and what those ratepayers may be expecting. So 8.12.175, this basically puts the requirements in our ordinance for any of the waste collectors. So currently we have three major ones. It's Jilton, Waste Management, and Bertolotti. Basically, we put in here what the minimum requirements that SB 1383 is requiring for haulers to do. So this gives us that tool to basically make them follow SB 1383. Yeah, 8.12232 states broken compliance with the edible food recovery program into 2 different tiers with deadlines that are 2 years apart. Most of the tier 1 facilities are already participating in some type of food recovery programs. Your Save Marts, other large, grocery stores, food service providers. Basically, what our ordinance is doing here is just laying out the requirements for the different tiers. They'll need to partner with food recovery organizations, food banks, and others in order to meet the criteria for that bill. And you see, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. For procurement, there is a number of different procurement requirements that are tied to SB 1383. Rather than us spelling out those requirements in our ordinance, we're going to go ahead and amend our procurement policy, and then we'll bring that back to council to review and approve. And then what you see here is just some of the highlights of what we can expect to be included in there. So our next steps, our immediate next steps are just our 2 biggest items are bringing our evaluations for our residential and commercial waste services to council, letting you know what those impacts are, what our rates are going to increase to. As mentioned earlier, our goal is to meet the minimum regulatory requirements, limit state involvement as much as possible, and maintaining those lowest rates. Once that's done, there may be some more modifications that we'll need to do to identify those options moving forward. And then the next biggest challenge for us is how to deal with that expense of overseeing this compliance and running our entire program. So these 2 sections, you'll see they are tied into the inspections and then the compliance and enforcement of the bill. We'll be required to complete annual compliance reviews, inspections, education. Violations and penalties will begin in 2024. And then to ensure that we're on track, heading into the right direction, Cal Recycle will be performing oversight on us and our staff annually as we move forward. And really, the question is how are we going to pay for all this? So that's what staff's going to be evaluating. Once we've got our programs in place, is it bringing in consultants? Is it hiring additional staff? There's a lot to this. There's some pretty big cost impacts. So with that, I can go over any questions you may have. As you sure read that ordinance.
How much food waste does a household have? I mean, I don't mean, I put mine down as garbage disposal, so it's probably not what I'm supposed to do, but.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you quantities at this time. That's not
And I mean,
something
you're
that's.
gonna have to have a special container and how are you gonna pick it up?
You
You're
just
gonna
went through that.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, and that's part of those evaluations that we'll go through. There's a couple different options that you've got. You got a single cart system, you got a 2-cart system, you've got a 3-cart system. Your single cart system, everything would go into 1 cart. It would go to what Cal Recycle deems as a high diversion waste organic processing facility. The rates for those, what we've heard, are very high right now, and we're talking to
dispose of.
Yeah, compared to where we're taking our waste right now at Lovelace. So yeah, it just depends on which system you go with, how many different carts that you're going to have, 1, 2, or 3.
Mark has a question.
Yeah, I know Leo will ask better questions than I will, because this thing just fries me. I tell you, they get a 3-ring circus up in Sacramento and the head clown signs off on it. That just fries me. This is just ridiculous. I mean, so have they told us what our methane is today and what they're trying to get to in terms of a measurement, and then how long it will take?
They've set goals. They did set what the methane emissions were in 2014, and the reduction goals, I believe, are 20% by or 50% by 2025.
Okay, do we know where we are today versus the 2014? No, I'm not, I don't expect you to answer. Have they given us the information for us to make an informed decision? This is going to cost every taxpayer and it's going to cost every business. And they don't care. It's kind of like, wow, maybe if it moves 1 percentage point, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, it makes no, I'm glad I left my notes at home because I had a list of notes. 9 pages just of definitions. And they even discuss flats. It's good for San Francisco, not for us.
Dairy cows a big problem for the.
So we have no idea what the taxpayer is going to cost. We're going to look at that, correct? We have no idea what it's going to cost the businesses, which is going to be a lot for CapEx because they got a plan for this thing, plus operating expenses. And do we know? We don't even know yet if we need new employees to implement this, do we? So this is an unfunded mandate and we have to approve it because if we don't, it's a bigger financial cost to us, correct? Can we approve this in protest? Because this is a bunch of BS.
That'd be a question.
No, I know, I'm asking Tom.
There's no reason you can't.
Okay. We have no choice. I mean, why doesn't the state just come down and run the damn city?
That's what they're trying to do.
That's what they're doing. I have nothing else to say. I left my notes at home. Thank goodness.
I think we got the point.
God damn it.
Leo, do you want to say something?
I have a question. Based on what I read and what you said. This is, I mean, to me, this is the classic cart before the horse situation. They've defined where we're supposed to be and said it's our problem to figure out how to get there. I got that. What I didn't see in what you wrote, and I might have heard in what you said, is how long we have to get there.
Yeah, so CalRecycle and the local assistance staff that are working, up and down the state with all these different jurisdictions they understand that the infrastructure is not there. Like you said, the cart is way before the horse. So they are trying to work with us. There's certain things that they've given us targets for, like this specifically, is by April, they want to see us have this enforceable mechanism through the adoption of an ordinance so that we can actually go through and do this. So I think they're going to try and work with us is what they've told us. Because if the infrastructure is not there, if you don't have a place to take this, which they're saying they're not going to even have that by 2025 statewide, then your hands are kind of tied. So it does sound like they're going to work with us, but our goal is to do this as soon as possible, just so that we make sure that if the facilities are available in our area, we would want to get this done in place so that we are in compliance and away from a compliance plan that they put us on.
One of the things that you said was that enforcement can't happen until 2024.
Yeah, enforcement of us on haulers, on
Right.
residents, on
And
commercial
so,
businesses.
In my head, I'm thinking, since we can't slap anybody around for 2 years, we basically have a couple of years to figure this thing out, I hope.
Yeah, I don't think CalRecycle is looking at it like that. They want us in these next 2 years to, educate, the commercial businesses or residents to put this in place. If the infrastructure is there and they see that, that's where they're gonna have an issue with us. At least that's what's been conveyed to us and
Okay.
the other jurisdictions. So.
Who's gonna decide? Say I'm a homeowner and I roll my new blue can out there and I have one rotten banana left in the bottom of it. Is that gonna be sufficient that I put it out there? I mean, there's gonna be numbers that the city's gonna have to meet based on some tonnage. But when the inspector comes around and says, oh, you didn't put 2 slices of bread and a banana, you only put your banana in there. Who's gonna determine how much is enough? Because I'll throw a banana a week in there to not get the $50 fine and I'll save my money and I won't worry about it, I guess. I just like, what's gonna count as sufficient?
Yeah, and I don't have those details, but you do see in this ordinance of what the haulers are required to do as far as self-auditing, the people that they're collecting from. Us, we would be one of them too. You've got to do these self-audits, and they're talking about laying out garbage trucks at your landfill giving you percentages of what the organics are in that truck every so often. I mean, it's so to that level. Yeah, I don't know as far as each individual home, and I'm assuming that if you're doing those larger audits and those route audits at the truck wide level or at your landfill or whatever,
Yeah, that's a
recovery
little bit
facility.
different. I mean, so if you get into an individual homeowner, you're driving around looking into a trash bin to make sure that they're doing it.
But it is in there. I mean, part of
Yeah.
Well,
that's
and
in
that's
there. But
my
I think if you're meeting those goals at your facilities, I got to assume that you're.
I'm gonna assume that we're not gonna meet those goals because I know people aren't gonna go along with it. So
Well,
then that's gonna come to enforcement, and how are we gonna handle enforcement?
building off of what Daniel said, in my mind, that if there's an enforcement mechanism, that's where it's going to have to be. And it's not how many bananas did you put in your cart? It's if the bananas are supposed to be in this cart, were they there or were they over in this one? Because if they're in that one, you're in trouble. If you didn't eat any bananas this week and it's empty, I'm happy. But if you had 3 bananas and you put them in the black can instead of in the blue can or whatever.
Yeah.
And I want to meet the guy who's going to go around looking at all those garbage cans and writing those reports. That boy is going to be making some big money.
No, because we're not gonna approve big money for anybody to do it.
When San Jose went to their regular recycling, forget this garbage, literally, but going to recycle, people couldn't figure it out because you had to do exactly that. This goes here and that goes there, and everybody's mixing everything up for a year because you had 15 bins in front of your house.
You ever seen a trash can on the side of the street that has a recycling portion in it? It's full of trash because people don't care.
That's right.
They're never gonna do it. But we can try.
And this is supposed to stop all the methane, and the wind blows and it screws that whole thing up anyway.
Would it make more
James.
sense for us not to basically as a city, just do our garbage like we do it and then go out and hire somebody to come up and pick up that specific garbage at each residence and
Well, I think your better option is hopefully the facilities at some point can sort, you put it, still put it in the black can and they can sort it at the dumping facility and they gotta pay higher fees, so they pay higher fees. but-
Yeah, and I think that'll be part of our
Because, I
evaluations
mean,
moving forward.
you would, to me, I'm thinking you're gonna have to hire, you're gonna get
What you're gonna have to do.
another truck or 2. You're gonna need to get cans for another can for every resident. And obviously, you know,
Cost us a lot of money. We have to pay for it, not
Yeah.
the state. We'd rather
James.
Burn it away.
well, on the
James,
long-
I have a question for you. Under the,
Oh, Gary's got a question.
can you hear me, James?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, under 8.12.030, the single family generators, letter D, it appears that an option of preventing or reducing waste generation. I think education is going to be an important component of this. Is that something that you have begun considering? Because helping people understand what they can do with some of this organic material. I mean, Dean mentioned it goes down the disposal. That seems like a perfectly reasonable option for a lot of this stuff. There are other ways to get rid of it without putting it in a trash bin. Is that something that you're starting to consider with this plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when we get these evaluations done, once we present these numbers to the council and kind of put our recommendations forward as far as what's the most fiscally responsible path moving forward, we'll definitely have to start with whatever that path is, our education and outreach efforts to make sure, these residents are aware of, what goes and where, what other options are out there. And that'll just be ongoing. And that's kind of part of the staff or consultant, options that we'll have to look at moving forward, because this is just, it's going to be a nonstop ongoing effort. So.
So I hate spending money, but the question I have though is going forward now, do we have enough people? I mean, you can only work 24 hours a day. There isn't any more than that. Do we have enough people to do all this that we need to do?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the analysis that James and
Okay.
I were talking about. We are going to look at how we are going to bridge the gap from where we're at today to really, implementing a program, educating people on a program, doing inspection, enforcements, reporting. It's a lot to do, whether that's consultants or own staff, but that is going to be part of the analysis as well.
So do we-
James, one other comment. This is so typical California. But in your background, you state that by 2025, not less than 20% of currently disposed edible food is recovered for human consumption. In other words, that is government codified dumpster diving. Is that something that you're also having to implement a plan for?
Yeah, I believe you're talking about the edible food recovery program, where those tiers, those different tiers of food generators, the supermarkets, the larger ones, have to recover that percentage by 2025. So those implement, or those numbers and what those businesses have to do are included in this ordinance. And then what this ordinance does essentially is it gives us the authority to get on them or go after them if they're not meeting those goals.
Okay, so that's not on individual homeowners though.
No, I don't. I believe what you're referring to, yeah, is the commercial edible food generator goals.
I have one last thing. So as Gary mentioned about the education piece, which we tend to do when these things come out, we need to make it clear that these are state policies, that this isn't something we drum up, because we don't have three-ring circuses here. And so we need to make sure that they get the full credit for this, however you word it. I wouldn't be the one to word it because it wouldn't come out nice, as you all know. But you can figure some legal way to say it, I'm sure. But I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely do that.
Okay, with that, does anybody want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion that we waive the first reading and adopt the ordinance as presented.
Introduce.
Or
Introduce rather than adopt.
introduce the ordinance.
With, like what Mike mentioned, do you want to add?
No, just this here. That's just something they're gonna do later.
Okay, all right. We have a second?
Oh, come on, you guys.
You got no
You're
choice.
putting that boy in a bad position.
I'll make a second. Not very happy about it, but I'll second it.
Roll call vote, Councilmember Barton,
A reluctant yes.
Councilmember DeGraff,
Same, a reluctant yes.
Zuber,
Unenthusiastic, yes.
Susha,
Yes, in protest.
So I can vote no, right? Make myself look good.
Yeah, we'll call the state. They'll come pick you up tomorrow.
and
Yes.
Euchre.
There's another 3 vote we could make. here.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. San Joaquin County One Voice Advocacy Trip. Okay.
I'll take this one, Mr. Mayor. Last year, the trip was canceled. The in-person trip was canceled because of COVID. They did do some virtual meetings. And this year, I asked Diane Nguyen what her crystal ball showed as far as a 2022 meeting. And they're optimistic, but still really uncertain if they're going to be able to have an in-person meeting. Right now, DC has indoor mask requirements, indoor vaccination requirements, but they also have additional security measures that have happened since January 6th in place. So they're still kind of working through that. They've had some large groups come through. Wasn't the most efficient way to do it yet. So I think COG's approach right now is to plan for an in-person meeting, but they're still trying to see if that's going to be something they're going to be able to do or not. Yes.
What do you mean by when you say the indoor vaccination?
That's a requirement over there.
You have to
Go into a restaurant if you don't have.
Show your
Oh, so
vaccine.
you
card.
gotta have a card.
So let me make a comment. You know, I've been back there for 20 years and it's hard enough when everything's fine with no epidemic, pandemic and all that stuff. If this thing happens, we go back there, somebody goes, I'm not going, goes back there. You may be in the hotel 90% of the time because there's going to be something going on and it's going to be an absolute, in my opinion, probably a wasted trip.
Could be a finale.
So I'm not sure it makes any sense to really even think. I mean, I say we send our project back, whoever goes back, but I'm not sure we should plan for it. That's just my take on it.
We just make.
It's hard enough the way it is.
Right.
Kind of thinking the same.
Yeah, it's a unique time. As far as the projects go on the list or the projects we
Can we
discussed.
put this off a few months? No?
Not for the room, right?
So do we need a
I
voting
think the last
representative?
time you don't have to send anybody,
Yeah.
but if you put it off much longer, there's only limited, if nobody's going, then you can put it off, which is a waste of time. You might as well vote.
Right.
But if somebody is thinking about going, they need to know now because the rooms are filling up.
Right. Yeah. And it is one other thing to add. It does conflict with the city council meeting. So you'd have to make a choice of participating in the city council meeting through Zoom or rescheduling the city council meeting where everyone could
Are
participate.
you
in
thinking
person.
about going?
Nope. I don't, I'm not the guy you want to send for, I just don't get into that kind of stuff.
No,
It's,
I get it.
you know,
I ain't going either. So,
I probably can't go.
yeah, and Kevin, would you go?
I wouldn't go without,
no, it's silly for him to go with that one. of us.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because we
important
got-
for a council member to
Yeah.
be part of that trip.
What about Mr. Bart?
Gary?
No, I don't plan to go this year. I may in some future year like to go, but not this
No,
year.
yeah, when things clean up,
I
I
don't want to miss a
agree.
council meeting. So
So with that, we could submit the projects that were approved last year and we would not submit anyone to attend the trip.
Well, but you, I mean, I say you, we can at least attend the pre-meetings and all that,
Yeah.
right? To kind of be in the loop and
Yep.
Yeah.
and sell our project at what's her name and all that stuff and just. not
Yeah.
actually go back.
We certainly can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion or anything?
I think the direction that,
No, it's direction. from
The-
staff,
the-
so we're talking this one.
Yeah.
So the consensus is that we're gonna, those are the two projects, and at this point, we're not going.
yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
And I guess we could always change that if something really loosened up, but
If it
Oh,
does, and
yes,
if
yeah.
the option is there, we can always change it.
Yeah, all right. So let's see, moving on. What do we got? One thing left here, right? Okay, state water shut off moratorium due to COVID-19. I'm gonna guess that's Mr. Peace again.
That's me, Mr.
No.
Mayor.
Oh, no, it's Mrs. Bruce.
Yes, so we wanted to give an update to the city council on what is happening with our utility accounts since the COVID-19 moratorium. Water shut-off date ended on December 31st. Per our municipal code, we charge a 10% late fee each month when there is an outstanding balance on the bill. Under normal circumstances, this works very well for the city of Ripon because of our shut-off process. The 10% late fee is not charged to an account for more than 2 months because then the services are disconnected. And the customer has to become current in order to have their services turned back on. And so they're no longer charged that late fee. However, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020, Governor Newsom signed an executive order which prevented public agencies from disconnecting water services for non-payment. So we've been dealing with this since March of 2020. The shut-off moratorium was to remain in place until September 30th of 2021, but then it was later extended with a Senate bill to December 31st, 2021. So the city's late fee, as I noted, is intended to charge a fee to the delinquent accounts that reimburses the enterprise funds for the additional administrative time and expenses involved to collect the amount owed. along with the amount of unrealized interest on the outstanding balance. But because of the governor's order, staff has not been able to utilize the city's normal process to shut off water service to collect delinquent balances after 2 months. Therefore, during the time of the moratorium, delinquent account holders were notified in their monthly bills of their outstanding balances and late fees, but no further action was taken by staff, meaning water shutoffs. So now that the moratorium has ended, December 31st, staff is making plans to transition back into our normal process of disconnecting services and collecting outstanding balances. Our plan to notify the public, as many of them are already aware, is to send out a notice next week, February 14th, to customers with delinquent accounts, letting them know that we will begin shut off and that they will have until a certain date to either enter into an amortization plan with the city or to pay their balance by a certain date. The bills coming out March 1st and April 1st will be as they usually are, showing if an account is delinquent. It has a big watermark across it saying delinquent notice, and it notifies them that they are in jeopardy of having their water turned off. And then around April 13th, we will be posting something on their door, letting them know that the following week, if they do not pay by April 17th, their water will be shut off. And then on April 18th, we will turn the water off for past due balances. So for the city's information, the staff has been applying late fees as stated in the municipal code during the moratorium, which is 10% applied each month on the outstanding balance. The impact of a late fee on individual accounts vary. There are some accounts that have no late fees. Other residential customers have negligible late fees, which are less than $1 per month. Or there are some that are incurring late fees of up to $260 per month. So staff is seeking direction from the city council this evening regarding 2 options related to applying the late fees for unpaid balances during the COVID-19 water shut-off moratorium ordered by Governor Newsom. The first option for council to consider is to continue to apply the 10% late fee as prescribed in the Ripon Municipal Code. And the second option would be to adjust the late fee from the 10% per the code to 2% during the period of March 2020 to April of 2022, when the city's normal process of applying late fees and implementing water shutoffs will resume. So as I stated, the intent of the city's late fee is to recover expenses incurred to collect the outstanding balances plus lost revenue from the accrual of interest. During the prolonged period of water shutoff, these administrative actions to collect the outstanding balances did not happen, but the enterprise funds did experience a financial loss as a result of lost revenue from not earning interest on the outstanding balances.
You know what that number is?
What number?
Okay, I thought she was done.
If the city council was to move forward with lessening the late fee that has been accrued, staff is recommending that it be applied to all outstanding balances, not just all late fees that have been incurred, not just the ones with outstanding balances. So this would mean adjusting late fees that were accrued or paid through this period of March 2020 to December of 2021, instead of accruing and or being paid for $220,000 of late fees, we would adjust that amount down to $44,000. That would affect probably about 2,100 customers. And then lastly, the state is offering a water arrearages program that will pay the city for outstanding water enterprise fund balances that are delinquent as of June 2021. So we're dealing with a different date here. And this program is going to be a partial benefit to some of our customers with delinquent balances, but not all of them. And it does require that if we receive this money from the state of outstanding water and water fees, that the city would have to write off all of the late fees that are associated with the water fees. The city estimates that this amount would be $27,000 that we would receive from the state, and we would write off $9,400 of late fees. However, we do believe that the impact of the adjustment is worth the benefit of writing off the delinquent fees. That is my staff report, and the recommendations, and we can discuss this as much as you would like, but the recommendation from staff would be to for the city to participate in the water arrearages program, and also similar other programs, because there's a wastewater arrearages program that just started, and to bring back an emergency ordinance to implement the option 2, which would be changing the 10% late fee down to 2% for that 24-month period.
I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to start with one. Was the 10% late fee assessed every month?
Yes,
So somebody has been assessed 10, if they went in arrears on March of 2020, we've been assessing 10% every month for the last 18 months.
that's correct.
Is that staff?
They-
When we wouldn't have done that.
Because we would have turned their water
Yeah.
off.
If we'd have shut it off.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to jump to I'm going to skip a bunch of questions. I'm going to jump to a possible solution. We're getting from the feds and maybe from the state somewhere in excess of $3 million that's supposed to be used by us to offset expenses that we incurred as a result of COVID. Personally, I think this is one of those places we need to look. This was changed because somebody else did this to us. We didn't do it to ourselves. And yet we've got 2,100 people potentially looking at a fee that they had to pay because we couldn't do the thing that solved the problem before then. And
Leo, I disagree. Nobody forced these people to use city utilities. They chose to do that and they chose not to pay it. Nothing about COVID prevented them from paying their bills, as evidenced by the fact that the vast, vast majority of people in this town continued to pay their bill. And I suspect, Lisa, is it correct that there were some people during the last 18 months that were hit with a 10% fee and paid that fee? Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
So those people, it's sort of like the student loan deal. Hey, if you paid off your student loan, well, hey, sucker, we're now gonna pay them all off at the federal level. Sorry, I don't buy it, not at all. If you don't pay your bills, the rules are very clear what happens. And yeah, it's now a big bill because the state said we couldn't turn their water off. I've had this conversation with members of staff, specifically Sarah Hollander, and she made clear that some people were mad at her that she didn't turn their water off, because that's, in a strange way, how they end up budgeting for their utility bill. Well, the state imposed that on us, but now it's time to pay the piper, and the city of Ripon should not be in the position of having to bear the burden for people who decided, and it is a decision, they decided not to pay their bill. It's time to pay the bill. In my opinion, it should be with all the fees that are per the code. And if they don't pay it, the water gets shut off.
Under what I was talking about, it's not a burden on the city of Ripon, unless you're going to look at this $3 million gift as something that you should use to improve the city and not use it to address problems that were created that it is being given to us to solve. You want to direct the staff to spend their time to go back and find out who could pay and who couldn't pay. Be my guest. Now you've incurred a cost to this city. Or you can use part of this money to get rid of part of the problem. I didn't say forgive the bill. All I'm talking about is the assessment, which is a problem that was created by the state, which we've been given money to help us deal with. Person still better pay us for the water they used for those 18 months that they might not have used if they had been able to shut it off. Let's not get too iron-willed about some of this stuff. I'm trying to help some people out here. I'm not trying to make some sort of a statement about the government or anything else.
Nor am I. But in the code, prior to COVID, am I correct, Lisa, that the code was if you are delinquent on your bill, that there is a 10% penalty? Is that correct?
That is how the code reads, but that 10% only ever hit 2 months before we turn them off.
And just to clarify with that, the intent of that 10% is to really make the enterprise fund whole. Because during that time, obviously, we're out the accrual of interest during that period of time, but there's other steps that staff take during that time, like Lisa talked about. We send out additional notices, we put door hangers on the door. So the 10% covers those actions to make sure that fund is essentially the time and motion study.
And it may not even cover it, actually.
Right, but that's the intent of it, is to recover those funds during that time period. But Lisa and I were talking, and just to clarify, if the council's action was to go with option 2 or another version, staff's plan was to apply that to everyone during the moratorium period who actually paid the late fees. We would adjust, credit their accounts.
Right.
The same as what we're talking about with the people who currently have delinquent accounts.
Part of the thing that I see with this, unfortunately, is some people take advantage of this stuff. It happened with rents, it happened with us, it just happens, right? So people that could pay, didn't pay. And so we're penalizing the people that, if we don't do something, we're penalizing people that may have lost their jobs and done something. And then, you shut their water off, and now all of a sudden you got, who knows what you have in the home, and dead lawns and all that stuff. None of us liked it, but I hear what Gary's saying. I mean, I absolutely 100% do. You yo it. But if we're getting some help for it, and we're helping some of our residents, I think that at this point now is the right thing to do. But how long does it go? I mean, if there's another problem, the state forces down, another thing that breaks it down. We helped businesses downtown, giving them grant money that Leo brought to us. We gave it to them, and it helped them. We got reimbursed for that. We went round 2. We helped the businesses. And I remember thinking at the time, or maybe I said it, why are the businesses being bailed out, but the residents are? This is kind of a way to help those people out as well, kind of as I see it. And, I mean.
Question, is that 10% compounded?
Yep. No.
It's
not
on the
like
services
interest.
only. It does not compound on the interest.
It's really a fee.
It's not 10%.
It's a monthly
It's 10% of the $200 you owe.
Yeah, so it's 20
Well,
bucks.
$20 a month every.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. So what correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, it is only the outstanding balance for the utility. We don't put it on top of the previous penalty, the previous late fees.
But, okay, I just want to ask a question. Let's take my example of the guy who went under on March 2020. Let's assume his bill was $50 a month, just for round numbers. So after 1 month, it's due $5. But he used his water, now it's $100. So now it's $10. Now, under normal circumstances, it would end at that point because you'd shut him off. Under this scenario, it's another $50. So now it's $150 and it's $15. Then it's another $50 and now it's $200 and it's $20. Then it's another 50. It just goes on and on and on for 18 months. That's the part that
I don't know if this is.
I don't have a problem fixing.
I don't know if this is a good example, but I have a guy that is a landlord, and his renter wasn't paying his rent, wasn't paying his water bill. And he finally got him kicked out because of COVID. He couldn't get him out. And he now owes over $5,000 to get his water bill.
They always pay your own water bills.
Yeah, I mean, well, he should have never had his water bill in her name. I mean, in his name. should have been in her name. I think that would have helped. But I mean, when he told me that, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
And that's one of the accounts that was earning about $260 a month of late fees based off that balance. So,
Because the accumulation.
right.
Yeah. I mean,
I go back to my original point. The bills came to that person,
in
Leo's
this case.
theoretical person, came every month. He saw the bill. He chose to round file it, he or she. And that went on month after month after month. The fact that we are now considering offering relief to someone who, look, and I'm confident there were some people who were under financial duress, but most people decided they would pay their bill. And we're now considering deciding that, okay, we're going to offer relief to those who chose to round file bills that were legitimate bills from the city of Ripon with legitimate fees associated to them based on code prior to COVID. Boy, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, what doesn't make sense to me is that this discussion is starting to tend to lump people together. We don't know how many people round filed their bill and how many people couldn't pay the bill because they didn't have a job, and how many couldn't pay the bill because they didn't know the bill existed. And if you want to try to figure that out, these people are going to work their rear ends off, and we probably never are going to know an answer. What I'm saying is we got ourselves into a situation with the penalty. That's all I'm talking about is the penalty. The people still have to pay their water bill. They still have to pay the 2 months that they would have paid otherwise. I just want to look at how much it would cost to take the rest of it and put it away and charge it against our
We're
money.
not waiving the water bill.
Not
We're
waiving
just
the water
reducing
bill.
the penalty.
I'm not waiving the penalty they would have been assessed had the situation been the way it was before. That they're on the hook for that. I'm only talking about the assessment part, the penalty part.
Right. I mean, Lisa, tell me if I'm wrong, but the total penalties at 10% are going to be a little bit more than $220,000 for that period of time, right? I know that goes through the end of the year. You still got a couple months after that. So, I mean, you're no more than $250,000, I would guess.
Right at 250.
Okay.
We're currently at 238.
7% of the money that we got from the state, if we eat it, so to speak, and just hold them accountable for what they should have been accountable for before.
But that's at 10%. What is it? You said something out earlier. 2% is what? Something less.
2% of what we would have charged
44
just going
grand?
through December would have been 44,000. So we would be writing off 176,000.
And we're getting 27,000 plus what we owe, plus the money you're
Right, so
talking,
we're
plus the
talking
money you're
150
talking.
grand at that point.
You know, council does have a lot of discretion in this. You certainly could use the COVID money to help solve this problem. And if that's what you wanted to do, it's really, what do you want to charge yourself at that point as far as interest? Do you want to charge yourself 10% of late fees or 2% of late fees? And it really goes back to, we would have to make a change to the municipal code because it does say 10%. But if you would look at the true financial impact to the enterprise funds, it is more on the order of 2%, probably a little less, because that's what we make on the interest from the money we have in our accounts.
But wasn't the COVID money kind of help shore, wasn't the COVID money kind of help shore up any shortfalls and whatever?
Right.
I mean, and so even if we didn't reduce it to 2, yeah, you're right. We can take it from this bucket and stick it and shore up the enterprise fund. Right?
Yeah, certainly.
Or you just write it off and say, okay.
Well, you're kind of writing it off.
Cover it.
Writing it off means we're not charging them.
No, I know, but not even worrying about recovering it to where it would have gone. If you
No, but if the enterprise fund is short,
If it needs it, then sure, put it there.
then you put it where it's supposed to be. I mean, what was it, $3 million sitting out there in code? I'm not saying that's a lot. I'm not saying it's not enough to cover all of our expenses, but if it's sitting out there to allocate the different buckets where we lost money, if you will, then that's a bucket we can put it in.
Well, but we're going to have a meeting sometime that to talk about this.
We are.
And all I'm saying is, let's put this one in the bucket of things we're gonna talk about, whether we're going to use the money on it or not. In the meantime, let her start, she wants to start sending these letters out next week.
That's right.
I would send them out, see how many get paid and then decide. if you want to give them.
After listen to the meeting, probably not.
Yeah, and I think really, Lisa, the direction you're looking for is on what outstanding balance do you put on there? You know, I guess in this case, we're talking about three different options. No late fees on top of, on that, with accrued 10% late fees or with a 2% late fees.
Well, a lot of these people may have gone back to work.
Or we could write a more general letter as well and not include that and just tell them that, or we can tell them worst case scenario.
Well, it's gonna be customized, right? Everybody's gonna get their own.
Right. It
Bill.
doesn't have his amount, but you know, as of today, we could put that amount on there and then you know, it's easier if it gets less, right, than if it gets more. So we could put the higher amount on the letters and then adjust it over time as they.
Let them come in and
Make them
negotiate.
file a petition if they need relief.
I was gonna say, let them
That
come.
puts more labor on us. Now we gotta consider.
It does.
And one of the options for them will be this amortization plan, which they will be able to sign up for by March 31st. That takes their outstanding balance and divides it. They can pay that over the next 12 months.
Are there state programs that they can apply for as well? Do we know?
Yes, there are. And every time that somebody does call us, we do push that information out to them.
So these letters that go out, can we give them that information in the letter? Well, I think we should.
We have sent that information out through Nixle, and if a delinquent customer contacts us, we send them that information. We have had one customer take advantage of that opportunity.
But I mean, if we're gonna send out how many letters?
2,100.
Right, and we're gonna customize, it. You owe so much, right? Can't we just include another paragraph in there? If you have any problems paying this, call 1-800 Gavin Newsom.
I believe the county's fee, the county's program just closed.
How about a state level?
No, I would have to look.
Well, I think that,
Well, in order to bring this to, try to bring this to a close, after listening to all this, what if we said that the base, let's go with your 2% thing, that recovers the actual loss rather than the monetary loss. Use the 2% number that you had as what they owe. Apply it across the board, the whole time, I don't care. That amount is minuscule compared to what they're gonna owe as far as their bill. And make that what they owe, and then if they want to look at a 12-month payment plan or whatever, we have all that in place, no change. Then all we do is drop the 10% down to 2%.
Is that a motion?
Sure, what the heck?
Okay.
well, okay.
What I'm saying is, instead of coming up with a third option, I'm gonna propose that we adopt her second option, which is to use the 2% figure for the time that they owed. And they owe, so they're gonna owe the amount of money they actually used, plus the 2% penalty rather than a 10%.
How about the 10% for the first 2 months and 2% for anything after that?
Fine. That's probably why. I wish I
Because
had-
that,
that's
well, that
probably where
makes
I
sense
wish I'd
because we
had it
would
in the
normally
first
have turned it off at that point. So that does make sense.
Is that a second?
Lisa, once, if this motion is agreed to, at what point does the late fee revert back to 10%? In other words, when people are delinquent on their bill in May or June, are we still applying a 2% late fee or are we going back to the 10%?
That's a good question.
I would propose that the 2% only goes through when we start turning the water off, which would be April 18th. So beginning with the bills for May, which was billed at the end of April, would be back to the 10%.
Right.
So we can-
Yeah, because in April, we can shut the water off after 2 months. Yeah.
And just to clarify with the motion, that also directs staff to bring back the urgency ordinance, changing the 10%.
Sure, put anything in there you want.
Do you need to have a special meet? Do we need to have a special meeting for that? Can we just do it in 5 minutes? How long does it take you to put that together?
Lisa already has it together.
Okay, so we have a first and a second.
With the right amount of votes.
Well, wait a minute, let's clarify.
I think we did.
Well, I know what Leo said, and it was different than what Dan
10%
seconded,
For the first 2 months, we would have normally done
Then
2% for
reverse.
everything after, and then starting once these go out, so April will go back to 10%.
but, right? That's what I understood. Okay, so that's the motion.
And we can do the ordinance by Zoom.
That's true.
Oh, no, we can't because we don't adopt that ordinance
But,
or that resolution.
okay, all right.
Is that all you need? Does that?
We need a vote if we make a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is it clear? Is it clear to you? Yeah, is that clear?
No, but my other question would be is whether the city council wants to participate in the water arrearages program
Yes.
and the wastewater or any other similar programs.
Yeah.
If the
Crazy
council
to
wants to
turn money away.
participate, what do you mean by that?
If the council would like the city to participate,
Do you need a motion for that too?
yes.
Let's do that separate.
I'm unclear what you're asking. I'm
Let's,
sorry.
let's take this vote and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about that.
then we'll
We'll
talk
make
about
2
that.
votes on this.
Yeah.
Okay. The mayor's sleeping.
I told her to call.
Second was Daniel.
Yeah.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Barton,
Yes.
DeGraff,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Stucia.
Yes.
Euchre,
Yes,
passes 5-0.
Now what's this?
okay, so.
Oh, there's another thing.
What's, Lisa, just describe what.
So,
she's got.
so the second item would be for council to vote for the city to participate in the water arrearages programs, any similar programs. This is for delinquent customers as of June 2021. We can participate with the state, and our balances at that time were $27,000. So we would get that money from the state, but then we would have to write off the $9,400 of late fees that are associated with that. With this 2% adjustment, that $9,400 could go down to about $1,800.
How do they calculate the 27,000? How is that?
The customers that were delinquent as of June 15th of 2021.
So we're getting that 100%.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
So we need a
Oh, I
motion.
thought.
I'll
I
move
thought
to
that was-
participate in that program. And you said there's one coming for wastewater too?
And any other similar programs.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Is that part of your motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Call for a vote.
Councilmember Barton,
Yes.
Graff,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Stucia.
Yes.
Euchre,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on. Reports. Chief.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, honorable city council, members of the public, I do have a presentation tonight. If I can get our 2021 end of the year report. I'll be happy to answer questions as we move through the presentation, so please don't hesitate to ask if anything comes about. I do have 3 years of data on each slide. Because 2020 was an abnormality because of COVID, I wanted to include 2019 to kind of show what the averages have been over the previous 10 years and what 2020 and 2021 have looked like. So if you notice the top lines are total incidents. The far right column, the difference is compared 2021 to 2019, as 2020 and 2021 are pretty similar. For 2021, we actually were down 4,000 incidents. 1,600 of those were calls for service from 2019. And 2,400 of those were officer initiated activity. And some of those activities are vehicle pedestrian checks, our cops contacts. And that related to a minus 185 total reports and a minus 103 crime reports. Can you go ahead and change the slide?
It's changed. It's changed.
That one?
Yes, thank you. So the next slide here is we have our part 1 crimes, which is homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, simple assaults, burglaries, larceny, stolen vehicle, arsons, and then the totals on the very bottom. Again, compared 2019 to 2021, our largest increase was in simple assaults. That was a significant increase in domestic violence, both in our residences and within travel through motor vehicles passengers. We had several at the pullover spots off the highway. People were pointing to some of our businesses and having domestic assaults within the vehicle at those locations. Very few of those were physical fights between people that were unknown or what we consider non-domestic violence. The other significant decrease was in larceny. We had -26 compared to 2019, and a large portion of those were for commercial businesses where they reported less thefts than 2019. One item of note is 2020 to 2021 stolen vehicles. 2020 throughout the valley, there was an increase in stolen vehicles during the pandemic or the height of the pandemic. Most of those were at our truck stops and were of diesel rigs and tractor trailers. So we have since seen a decrease in those numbers. From 2019 to 2021, we actually saw an increase of 10 Part 1 crimes. For our arrest, compared from the 2-year difference, we actually had -8 in felony arrests and a dramatic decrease in misdemeanor arrests, 291. Most of those tend to be generated from traffic stops. There's less traffic stops, less citations and arrests, and which translated into almost a -300 from 2019.
Chief, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you go back a slide, please? So on these arrests, we know that you're arresting them, you're bringing them to jail, and they got to let them out, right? Because of our DA.
A significant portion of them, yes.
Yeah. So do some of these, I mean, we probably arrest people twice the same night for the same thing because they go to jail, they come back out and do the same thing. Do we know how many of these, or do we track, or do they let us know? Like, for an example, in 2021, we had 637 misdemeanor arrests. Do we know what percentage gets let out, or is that something they don't bother telling us?
We don't have those numbers.
Okay.
It would be time consuming to go back and check all the court records to make a determination whether or not what happened with those cases. I can tell you a significant portion of those cases never get filed.
Okay.
Moving to the types of arrests, again, out of those 115 felony arrests, 112 of those are adult, 3 are juvenile. Out of the 637 misdemeanor, 609 are adult and 28 are juvenile. Out of that number of total arrests, we actually only had 1 use of force incident last year, and that was use of a taser on a suspect. In 2020, we had 3 use of force, and those were actually physical restraint. Typically when we have to force someone to the ground to take them into custody. And then in 2019, we also had 1 use of force incident, which was with the taser. Something of note that I didn't include in the slide, but I think it's noteworthy to discuss. In 2021, we had 0 formal complaints or internal affairs investigations into misconduct. In 2020, we had 1, and in 2019, we had 2. I'm sorry, sir. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's something that we strive for. We try to operate within the law and within policy and maintain our department philosophies. And we have a significant amount of staff, typically all, that try to do the right thing as best they can.
I just want to commend you on that, Chief. That is an outstanding result over the last few years.
Thank you, Councilman. Moving into mental health incidents, it is significant based on the state of our county and our state itself, especially as it relates to our transient populations. And the two numbers are different, as in the incidents reported through 2019, 2020, and 2021, as you can see, are pretty significant, are pretty similar. Those are calls that officers are dispatched to each year that are come out as a possible mental health issue, somebody experiencing mental health trauma. The number below that are the reports that we take, that officers are being either dispatched to other types of calls, or they're initiating activity where somebody is having a mental health incident or experiencing trauma. So as you can see, in 2021, our officers responded to 23 incidents, but they have 61 people that they took into protective custody, which is plus 11 from 2019, but plus 17
So
from
you're saying
2020.
that the officers found those on their own per se?
On their own, or they were dispatched to a suspicious person or to a welfare check, and upon arrival, determined that somebody was having a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
And upon making that determination, place a temporary hold to get medical treatment.
So I mean, in a sense, that's not really a bad, I mean, it's not a good thing, don't get me wrong, but that number's up. That means that our police officers are really watching out for the citizens are homeless or whatever.
Yeah, they're trying to, and that also, that number is a pretty big number, 61 in 2021.
Yeah.
And I anticipate that number continuing to increase as things in
Yeah.
society
We're
deteriorate.
stressed.
But it's also very important to realize that each time that we take someone into protective custody for mental health incident, that we're taking an officer off the street anywhere from 4 to 10 hours, depending on what the situation is. When we discuss and look at the reduced numbers of proactive activity that we do, traffic stops, pedestrian checks, officer initiated activities, any of that type of stuff, the reduced number is a direct correlation to the number of hours off the street that we have to handle mental health and other issues that we're not traditionally trained to handle. And that number is going to continue to increase. Moving into traffic safety. I like to include this just to kind of give a snapshot of what we do. As you can see, we conducted just over 2,300 traffic stops in 2021. That's roughly 10% of what we do. I know some members of our community think that's all we do, but it's not. It's a very small.
After they get a ticket.
It's a very small portion of what we do. Like I said, it's about 10%. That has been a decrease of almost 1,500 from 2019. Again, some of that has to do with the less vehicles that are on the roadway during 2021, in different parts of 2021. And it also has to do with at the beginning of 2021, we were in a much different spot than we were or are today with staffing, with some shortages and dealing with sick leave and some other things that were associated with the pandemic. And then the hiring of new staff. There are certain things that new officers cannot issue citations for until they're go to training. Unfortunately, some of those trainings weren't taking place because of the pandemic and some other things. So there's some of those things that weren't being done at the beginning of the year, which we've been able to take care of now. But out of the 2,362 traffic stops, there were 661 moving violations. And out of those 661, 559 of them were considered hazardous moving violations. The most significant violation that we write is stop sign violations, followed by running red lights signals. 85% of the citations we issue are again for hazardous moving violations, and about 28% of the vehicles that we stop receive citations.
So Chief, I have a question. So is hazardous, would that be if you're, let's say, doing 70 and a 25 versus 25, 35 and a 25?
No,
One's hazardous, one's
any
not?
speed violation would count as a hazardous movement violation.
So then what are the percent stops resulting in citations? Could that be like a light out or something like that?
It could be something similar to that, a mechanical violation, or something that we consider hazardous or violations, anything that could jeopardize the safety of the motoring public or pedestrians or bicyclists. There could be a turning movement, anything else like that. Okay, can you go ahead? There you go. Moving into traffic collisions. In 2021, we actually had 202 traffic collisions reported through our dispatch center, which was down 40 from 2019. Now, these are total traffic collision reported. So as you'll see, as the number goes to the next section, we only had 84 traffic collision reports. A significant portion of those 202 are traffic collisions that occur on private property. Most of those occur at the truck stops between tractor trailer rigs, and tend to be hit and runs where a tractor is pulling out, takes off a fender or a mirror of another tractor, and either the person knows and flees or is unaware that they had a collision. On those, we do not take written reports. So that's why the incident number is so dramatically high compared to the actual reports that we take. The 84 traffic collision reports that we did take would be on surface streets, or it would be a hit and run on private property that we have suspect information. So as you can see, that increased 8 from 2019 and increased significantly from 2020. Traffic collisions with injuries was almost identical to 2019. And the degree of injury in 2021, we had zero fatal. We had 2 major injuries and 13 minor injuries, which was very similar to 2019. In 2020, there was a significant reduction in traffic collisions injuries. Out of those 84 reports, we had 14 traffic collisions that were caused by impaired drivers, and only 3 were caused by juvenile drivers. Touching on animal services, as they were dramatically impacted by the pandemic and some of the restrictions that were put in place with people being able to visit our shelter and view animals. We actually had an increase of 5 additional animals that were taken into the shelter as impounds from 2020. We had 272 of them either returned to owner, adopted, or rescued, which was a -8 from 2020. And we actually had 19 animals that were either euthanized or died at the shelter, which was up 13. And a significant part of that, again, is the inability to get animals adopted out or having access to rescues, which we would normally have access to outside of the pandemic. That's all the data I have, but as a reminder, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in the Emergency Operations Center, our training room, we have our area of responsibility meeting for Area 1, which is north of Highway 99 and west of North Ripon Road, being held by our patrol team headed by Sergeant Burgos. Usually those meetings are about an hour, depending upon public participation, but all are encouraged to attend. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Whoops, I almost fell asleep during that.
Don't say that.
I was joking.
You were snoring.
Did I snore? Kai, it's on you.
He said nothing.
Oh, thank you.
Just a quick reminder, Monday is Valentine's Day. So if you're looking for a fun and economical activity, please consider joining us for our planning commission meeting at 6 o'clock. It's a free event. You can bring your date. We do have a couple items on the agenda. So
You're gonna have.
I thought you were looking for
M&Ms?
flowers.
I'll get Daniel here if there's food. I know that for sure. So we do have a couple items for our meeting. We have a hotel that's looking to be approved over by the Angle Petroleum gas station there, that big, large site that's about 2 acres. And we do have a small retail center that's looking to locate out by Tractor Supply. So those are the 2 items that they'll be considering.
Mr. Pease,
Yeah, the only thing I had is just the water usage for January. So our January number was down 1% from our 2013 numbers. And it's kind of tough during this time of year. And the same thing it's right about the same as it was last year too. So it's down 1% from our 2021 year.
Jay, quick question on that. Now, it's only 1% from this year to last year, but what was it
No.
like
2013.
the year? Oh, so
Yeah,
that,
it's very similar in these drier months. It's
Okay.
it really depends on the temperature
Now,
and how much is
thinking
being used.
you know, we've been doing really, really good. And so is it getting so good that that number changes? But
I
that's
think
not
it shows
really-
up more in the hot months than it does.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Terpstra. Mr. Warner,
Nothing to report?
Councilman.
Martin.
Oh. Is he looks like, oh, he moved. You have anything to report, sir?
I have no report.
I got something to say, of course.
Of course.
Thank
Chief,
you all
just
for
want to
coming.
commend you on a job well done. I mean, listening to your report and seeing the numbers, I mean, I'm always impressed when the crime map comes out and that gets posted and it's like, you know, a handful of dots across the community, and it's a testament to the work that you guys do. So appreciate that and keep up the good work. There's an event coming up, I think this month. I don't know if Kelly has anything to say, but I think people might know about it. It's called the Almond Blossom Festival Parade, you know? I don't know if Kelly has anything to say.
24th,
I have. one
spaghetti
thing.
dinner.
The 26th is the Almond Blossom Parade.
Well, it starts the 24th, spaghetti feed, the
Okay.
Lions Club
That's the coronation.
and the coronation. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, look forward to those events. And other than that, thank you to everybody who's here and who's listening online.
Mr. Zuber,
Well, it's already been mentioned, but the Almond Blossom Festival Parade is on Saturday, the 26th. I have the car.
The same one?
It's the red one.
All right.
Yeah,
Not
that's-
that Giants one.
Wasn't it? I thought it was orange.
it's orange and black.
No, red.
Yeah.
So I need to know, are you all
Yes.
going to be there?
Yes.
We need to be behind the fire station at 11 o'clock.
What?
11.
11.
No, well, the thing's at 1. Be there by 12:30.
Yeah.
I'll be back. I'm not worried about it. I'll be there at 11 because
Yeah,
that's when the car has to be there. The rest of them, the heck with it.
12:55. See you later.
We'll be there a little early to support them. Yeah, we'll
I'll
be
catch
running
you.
alongside you.
Mr. Restuccio,
I do a couple things. I gave you all a wristband from a Freedom of Mask event that was put on by Stephanie Diego. Good event. She had a lot of people attend. Number one. Number two, my First Responder Appreciation Day, and I'll mention it again next month, is on April 2nd. You all got an email and a request. Be at the police department at 8:30. First 200 people get a shirt. And Sheriff Withrow is going to be my guest speaker. And lastly, you've all been getting about 2,500 emails a day from the League of Cities. And there was something I saw in there, and I don't know if you guys looked at it, but it was AG 210042A1, which was Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. Basically what it does, it takes all the authority away from local agencies to fine, assess fees, et cetera, et cetera. I'll give you this information, but I'd like you to look at it because if they pass this up there, we got some problems. So let me give it to you. Maybe you guys want to look at it and if possible, maybe bring it back next month. But, you know, he's been sending a lot of information. This one's looks like it could definitely impact us financially. And then lastly, we talked about I think it was November, about bringing back, I'm not pushing it, I'm just bringing it up again about codifying how we're going to do the process if somebody leaves the council. Yeah. Yes, we did. So just a reminder that March is coming around, just in case. Huh?
Tom was gonna work on that.
No, but you know what happens is we don't put it in place for a while, then something happens, you know?
You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know you don't have it tonight, but I was just, this is a reminder because I haven't wanted to say anything because I know you guys have been very busy doing other stuff, but I just think it's good to get in place.
You never know. And with that, you got, I would also like to ditto to the chief and his staff and all of his guys. That the numbers are very, very impressive and it's nice for us people on the council to hear that because you know, typically people come to us when they're mad at you guys. And if they're not mad at you guys, they don't come to us. So, and I don't think I had anybody, one complaint this whole year, which that was it. So that's pretty, you know what I mean? That's
And that was
good.
his wife calling you about him.
Yeah. With that, good night.
Hi, Gary.
Bye, Gary.